Deuteronomy 22 to 30 is titled Marriage Violations, which is somewhat of a misnomer. It outlines the punishments for men and women who engage in sex outside of marriage. It reads that, starting with verse 22, if a man is found sleeping with another man's wife, both the man who slept with her and a woman must die. You must purge the evil from Israel. If a man happens to meet in a town a virgin pledged to be married and he sleeps with her, you shall take both of them to the gate of the town and stone them to death. The young woman because she was in a town and did not scream for help, and a man because he violated another man's wife. Not because he violated her, but because he violated another man's wife. You must purge the evil from among you. These make no mention of the man's marital status, but if he engages in sex with a married woman, the two of them, must die. This was legislated in part to keep there from being a large scale blow up reaction to a situation like such, i.e., taking more than an eye for an eye, like I guess in those old school mafia movies where the boss orders not even old school, where the boss orders an entire family to be slain because someone's robbed his stash. However, if the end is to purge the evil from Israel, why not just banish them? Verse 25 picks up, but if out of the country a man happens to meet a young woman pledged to be married and rapes her, only the man who has done this shall die. Do nothing to the woman, she has committed no sin deserving death. This case is like that of someone who attacks and murders a neighbor. For the man found the young woman out in the country, and though the betrothed woman screamed, there was no one to rescue her. This seems just, regardless of time or age. This seems just. The man who commits the rape is convicted of the crime. Now, verse 28 picks up, if a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman. So, okay, if a man meets a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered. So, there are a number of caveats here. Virgin who is not pledged to be married, who is raped, and they're discovered. So if they're not discovered, there's just a lot of holes there, but for sake of time, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. Pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the raper, then must marry the raped. The young woman, in turn, must marry the party who raped her, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her for as long as he lives. There's a whole lot of this isn't a funny situation, but there's a lot of comedic fodder in there. There was one of those. This is one of the more interesting texts to me to examine regarding equity, equality, rape, virginity, and much of what it has us twisted about sex based on Old Testament Iron Age laws. First off, rape is wrong. I say that emphatically, unapologetically, unequivocally. Rape is wrong and should be severely punished, regardless of context or age era, whether the victim is a virgin, a sex worker, married, betrothed, engaged, single, or otherwise. But this passage only requires a payment of 50 shekels, about $16,000 today. This payment is not even made to the victim, it's made to the father. The father gets to profit off of his daughter's rape. The woman is rewarded with having to marry the perpetrator, and the perpetrator is punished by not being able to ever divorce her. Especially by today's standards, where is the justice in this? Justice is equitableness or moral righteousness, being able to stand up for a just cause, rightfulness or lawfulness. It's a claim to a title on just or reasonable grounds. No adult is the master of another. Therefore, no adult should benefit financially or otherwise from the damage done to another living adult. Unless you're Britney Spears' father, right? The father should not be awarded damages for a crime committed to his daughter. The daughter should be the beneficiary. A payment of $16,000 doesn't seem steep enough, but whatever that award might be should be given to the daughter for being forced to engage in unwanted sex. Even more egregious by today's standards would be the requirement for the rape victim to be married to the raper. If the rape was not a stripping of the raping in itself was not enough of a stripping of one's dignity and diminishing, what would being married to someone who did such be? Lastly, nobody should be forced to stay with anybody that makes them miserable or is otherwise detrimental to their being. Absolutes regarding intimate human relations are Iron Age law that expired. In an era where communities depended on men taking care of women and children, where the unmarried woman was at risk, the same isn't necessarily true today. Antiquated laws treating women as second class citizens or property of their fathers to be passed on to a husband do not fit the capabilities, the capacities, the structure, the mobility of today's women, nor does it fit that of upstanding righteous men.